So it's good evening, folks. Thanks for coming in. Hope you're all enjoying the cold weather. We do a slight bit of snow in Scotland today. Well, our area of Scotland, about half an inch, couple of centimetres, whatever. But it's absolutely freezing. It's minus 3 or 4 just now. But tonight we are welcoming back, I was going to say old friend. I'll say good friend. Sounds better than old friend. Hollywood actor and stuntman. And he's part of Hollywood Ghosthunters, Mr. Rick Mccallum.
Hello, everybody.
How are we doing, young man?
Doing the best I can there, Mr. Matheson.
Mr. Matheson. I've not been called that in a long time. Usually it's just Matheson. They tend to leave the Mr. out. Or it's a few other choice names.
I was being polite. It's the one chance you'll get in your whole life. Don't mess it up.
I'm not messing up. I've got it. We're on live, so this is obviously getting recorded, so I can play that over and over again. And so Rick's one part of Hollywood Ghosthunters with his friend Kane Hodder. That's my teeth. Who's also known for being Jason in the Friday the 13th film. So, you know, I keep going to that. I've been doing this 4 years and I still do that. I don't know about you. I still point the wrong way. He's over there.
Here I am.
So it's very, very nice to have you back, young man. It's been quite a while. It's been too long.
Just had a thump in my closet.
Have you got an active house?
No, I mean my apartment is very haunted.
Well, you're in the right place then.
Yeah, it's that was a pretty good thump right in there too. Of course, could have been the girl that lives downstairs slamming her door or something. Who knows?
So that's how I used to live in flats. You people up the stairs and downstairs, and you hear they're playing music or the telly or stomping about, especially if they had kids and they're stomping about. And you think you just pack it in basically. So what have you been up to, young man? What's the famous Mr. Mccallum been doing with his time?
Well, the famous Mr. Mccallum went back to Scotland with some friends of mine. We had gone on a tour, ghost hunting tour, and half of the stuff we were promised we didn't get. So I was kind of ticked off about that because I was the ambassador. They used my name to sell this stuff, and then it was awful. Let's just put it that way. But I decided that I would get 4 of my friends, and we would go to the places that we wanted to go to that we didn't get to go to. So I asked them all, what's your dream place? What's your dream place, right? And I managed to get every single one of them for them, which was really cool. So we went all over Scotland. We went to Bannockburn House, Castle Mengus. We went all over the place. Went to Balgony Castle. Been all over the place, all over in Edinburgh. Or Edinburgh, as you guys say.
It's always funny. See, no disrespect to anyone. You hear Americans who talk about Edinburgh, they go Edinburgh, Edinburgh. They've got a different name, and you sit there and think it's Edinburgh. Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
That's it. That's exactly. It's pronounced borough, but they don't say borough. They say Edinburgh.
Well, they got Castle Menzies. And the last 3 letters, last four letters are ZIES. They call it Castle Mengus.
It's the way we are, my friend. We cannot speak English. We speak Scottish, and but you get that here. It's surprising. I've spent a lot of time in England, and it's surprising amount of English people. We've got a lot of English friends, and they're only a couple of 100 miles away from us, and some of the things we say, they're totally lost. And they say, like say, if you say can you get a rolling square, and they're like that.
Well, you got to know something like it. America's a very, very big place. I mean, it's huge. That if you tried to get somebody from Boston to talk to somebody from Texas, forget it. They're not going to understand each other at all. So,
I've spoken to quite a lot of Americans, and I've heard people say that before. If you're from one city, you talk to somebody from maybe a couple 100 miles away or the south or something like that, you don't have a clue what they're talking. I always found that strange.
Well, we've got thousands of miles between us.
Well, aye, that's true enough, because your country's a blooming big.
Yeah, I mean, it's the United States is a big country.
Jennifer, we've got friends that stay in, I always get this wrong, Jennifer, if you're American type, she lives in Oregon. And Willie and Kat Armstrong, they live in, let's say, Idaho. It's the next state over to Oregon.
That's
and I says Jennifer, what? I always get Idaho and Iona mixed up. I don't know why. But I said to Jennifer one time, what's the chances of you hooking up with, because they're just kind of next door sort of thing. And Jennifer, they're not next door. It's about a 6-hour drive. I was like, you kidding me on for there to there? He says, aye. Whereas, you know yourself, Rick, in Scotland, you can drive from one side to the other in about an hour.
Well, you know Ryan O'Neill, right? From Haunted Scottish Paranormal.
Aye. I've never met him, but I know of him.
Well, he's on TV show Haunted Scotland. And he's got a really hard Scottish accent. And we were in Ireland and we're driving and he's in the back seat and he's talking to me. And finally I just turned and I said, will you speak English? I couldn't understand a word he was saying. Although he's a lot better now because for the last 2-3 years he's been on TV. And I'm sure they say, they have to understand what you're saying. Right? So he speaks, now I can understand him. So
I'm Glaswegian. I've got a really bad habit. All Glaswegians have that the longer we talk, the faster we get.
You guys got nothing out here. I mean, have you ever heard the Mexicans talk?
I've only in films.
The Mexicans talk about 700 miles an hour. You're like, holy crap. And they understood that. It's like,
that's the thing. I can't remember who I was telling. I said, well, you get two drunk Glaswegians together, and they're having a conversation. 95% of people don't understand them, but, we can understand what they're actually talking about, even though they might sound like fish underwater or whatever, And I understand them perfectly. But so you're visiting Scotland. What was your most kind of interesting spots?
Well, Balgony Castle always is, and Balgony Castle had an amazing thing that happened there. I got to be friends the very first day there. For some reason, the Laird of Balgony Castle took a real liking to me, and I really liked him. He and I were just sitting there. We were just like instant buddies, and I had just fallen and messed up my leg real bad, so I was limping. And he looks at me and he goes, can you walk up 3 flights of stairs with that leg? He said. And I said, you got handrail? He goes, yeah. I said, yeah, do it. So he goes, good. I'm going to show you my private residence. So we're going up the stairs and the Scottish Paranormal guys are walking up with me, who are the in-house ghost hunting group for the castle. And one of them whispered to me, he goes, he's never taken us up there. Right. So I was pretty honored that I was getting to see this. And we got upstairs and he had 31, all the previous Lairds, family crests, things about yay big. And he hand painted all their crests and they were in the ceiling, all 31 of them. I mean, it was amazing. There was the giant stone fireplace and the leather seats and then the library. I mean, it was exactly, if you're going to do a movie about a Scottish castle, that's how you would have put it. So it was amazing. But he and I got to be really good friends. And, he was older. He was an older man. And when I went back the time before last, we were doing filming from there. And we all went in the back room. He was in a hospital bed, but he was still sharp as a tack. And we went in there, we were talking, and we were all in line, and he was looking up and he would talk to each person. Then when he sees me, and I hadn't seen him in a couple of years because of COVID, and he looks up and he sees me, and his hand comes up and he grabs my hand and he pulls me down and he whispers something to me. And I look up and I went, wow, it's dusty in here. I got to go outside. And I go outside. I didn't fool anybody. It wasn't the dust. But the last time I saw him was just before he passed away. And the first time I was there, he says, can you keep a secret? And I said, yeah. So he says, okay. And he told me this secret. And I was like, you're kidding me. And he goes, no. And I was like, holy moly. Right? It had to do with the Knights Templar because his whole castle was filled up with Knights Templar stuff. And I told him, I said, I've always loved the Knights Templar. I think that's why he liked me. Right? But anyway, when I went back the last time, we both pretty much knew that I wasn't going to see him again. Right? That he was going to pass. And he says, did you ever tell anybody my secret? And I said, no. He goes, good, because I only told you half. And then he told me the rest of the secret. And I was just like, right? So I haven't told anybody. But in his obituary, it alluded to the fact there's quite a bit of the Knights Templar still alive, still working, and Balgoni seems to be a very central place in that plot. So what it comes out to, if you go through it, that if there still is a Knights Templar, that I was talking to the Grand Master, and for some reason he just took a liking to me, which was really cool. Now here's where the really interesting story comes in. I'm sorry I bored all of you, but had to give you.
Not at all.
When we went back, we went into. I was with Scottish Paranormal. I was with Kat Hobson from Fate Magazine, and we had some pretty good people with us. And it was a pay thing where people came to ghost hunt, and they asked us if we would go down into this one room. Now I'd never been there. It was like the museum, and I was kind of bummed out because it's small and it's not one of the big things with all the Knights Templar and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it was the room that was right next to the Laird's room where he had his wood shop, which he was an amazing woodworker, leather worker, painter. I mean, he was just an amazing guy. And we all went in there. We put up our stuff. We had REM pods. We had cat balls. We had Mel meters. We had K2 meters. If there's anything in the ghost hunting world that can light up, we had it in this room, right? Mm-hmm. So we sit down and the guests are coming in. I'm introducing all of us, saying who we are, things like that. And we get started. And I said, are there any spirits in here that would like to speak to us? And my K2 goes, all 5 lights and locks. I've never seen that. I mean, that's how it would just, boom, all solid, right? And I looked over the girl next to me. Hers is all 5 lights. So I said, okay, whoever's doing this, can you back away from it so we can talk to you and get answers? Right? With it all stuck like this, we can't do it. Didn't go, so I turned mine off. I turned it back on. Bam! Went all the way up to 5 again. And Kat goes, holy crap, look at this. And I turn around and I look at the REM pod. And I've never seen a REM pod go this berserk with as much power. And as a matter of fact, Kat and I wrote a little article about it for Fate Magazine. And the way Kat described it, she goes, it looked like fireworks going off. And everything in the room that could go off was going off at full power, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my friends. I'm looking at Kat and Laurie and Mikey and everybody. And they're all just looking at me like, are you going to catch on? Right? And I went, holy crap, it's the Laird.
I was just waiting on you saying that. I was going to say that. You think it was the Laird?
Yeah, and all of a sudden, all the stuff was answering me and everything else. I mean, it was the most astounding thing I've ever been a part of. And I mean, everybody that was there just went, that was amazing. And what was really interesting, there was 4 more groups that came down. Mm-hmm. Not a single light in the next 4 times. It was just, there's no doubt about it he was saying goodbye to me. And it was amazing. And just to top it off, the very next night, was something that was almost equally as amazing. I was with your buddy Liam Shand. We were up in Inverness and we went to this one graveyard, which had never been ghost hunted as far as he knew. And there was this girl who was a guest of theirs who was walking around with me. And I'm walking all over. Now, I need knee replacement very badly, right?
Right.
And we had walked 9 miles that day, and my leg was just I was stumbling. I couldn't walk hardly anymore. And we're walking around through the graveyard. Been in there about an hour. My K2 didn't go off a single time. Nothing was going on. And I finally got to where I could not take another step. And I'm looking around for a chair or a bench or something, and there isn't anything there. And right next to me is a tombstone that looks like a bench, just. And I looked down and I said, I mean you no disrespect at all, but I can't walk another foot. So I need to sit down, right? I hope you'll forgive me. I sat down, and the instant my big butt touched this thing, bam, 5 lights went off, right? So I was like, are you telling me to get off? Bam, 5 lights again. I mean, instantly. The answers were like as fast as you can get. And the girl looks at me, and she's, her eyes are real big because she hadn't been seeing anything. It was her first time out. And I said, I have a favor to ask. I can't walk another step. Can I just sit here for like 30 seconds till my leg starts to feel better? And it goes on, twinkles like on 2 and 3 lights, like he's saying, well, okay, right? And then after about 30 seconds, bam, 5 lights again. And I look over and I said, are you telling me to get up? Boom, 5 lights again. I said, I'll tell you what, if you do it right now, I'll get up and leave. Boom, 5 lights again. I said, and she looks at me, she goes, what are you going to do? I said, going to leave, right? So we got up and off we went. But I had never seen, in all the time I've done this, answers that hard, that immediate. So I have no doubt in my mind that I was talking to somebody down in that grave, right? So, I mean, I actually told Kat, I said, Kat, you know what? I'm thinking about quitting ghost hunting. She goes, I'll never quit ghost hunting. I said, I know, but where am I ever going to have 2 things like just happened in the last 2 days? I said, I'm never going to be able to compete with those 2. Those are too amazing.
That happened to us actually, right? A couple of years back. The 5 lights of the K2. We use the K2, and I know a lot of people. There's a lot that can interfere with a K2. The list is endless, as you know. But we had done. I don't know if you've ever heard of Dalquahan Castle. It's in Ayrshire, just outside Daly, which is a tiny small village. And we'd been up at it was a main house, but there's a castle behind it. The house is called a castle. And so we decided to investigate the castle behind it. And it must have been some kind of old tower we were in, but there was about 6 or 7 of us there, and we had the REM pods out, cat balls, K2 meters, and we were asking questions, and the REM pod went right up to red. Now, again, there was no pylons about, no electricity, nothing. But this happened about 2 or 3 times when I was asking questions, because we picked up the words we picked up. I'm down here, and so I said, "Were you a prisoner here?" And it went straight up to red. Laura, who's in the chat, she was there. It went straight to red, and I says, "Did you pass here? Were you hung here?" And again, bang, right to red. So I says, were you hung were you accused of being a witch? Because there was history of witch trials in that area. And again, it went straight to red. So I know what you mean with the K2 going up to red. It's something you just can't fathom it. And it's never happened again since. It just happened that one night. But it does stick with you. But definitely, I think that definitely was the laird coming in to say, goodbye to you.
Yeah, well, Scotland, and I've had some real strong things happen while I was in England. But I mean, that whole area is just Scotland, England, Ireland is just packed with, no matter where you go, there's activity. I remember one time I was walking up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Calton Hill in Edinburgh. And,
the graveyard.
No, the Calton Hill is it's all the monuments up on top.
All right, there's a Calton Hill graveyard cemetery as well. Right, I know what you mean.
Well, we got a thing up on top. It looks like the thing from Greece. It's got all these different monuments, and you can look down into down into the Queen's Palace, not the King's Palace now. And it's not that far from Arthur's Seat. So you're kind of up even with it and stuff. Well, me and Lori were walking up there, and it's like a 75-yard cement thing that goes straight up the hill. And there's a handrail that goes up the middle. And we're walking up there, and there's hedges on both sides, so there's nobody next to you. And we're going up, and I've got a bad knee. She's got bad feet, so we're not going very fast up this hill, but we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And right then I hear right over my shoulder, "Pardon me," real grumpy. And I was about ready to turn around and say, "Mind your tone, young man," right? And turn around and look, and there's nobody there. And I can see 50 yards or so straight down the way. There's nobody there. So I said, "Lori, did you hear anything?" She goes, "Yeah, the guy that said, 'Pardon me.'" I said, "Turn around and look." And she goes, "There's nobody here." I said, "I know." It was as clear as a bell, too. I'll tell you another one that was really something. I was staying in the dorm at St. Andrews University, because in the summer they open it up like a hotel, right? So I was staying there, and I was up on the third floor. One other person, he was all the way at the end of the dorm rooms. I mean, way the hell down there. Only time I ever saw him one day was when we bumped into each other at the bathrooms. But I went in there the first night I was there, and I laid down, and I couldn't lay down for more than 2 minutes. I mean, I was wide awake. I was just laying there, and I was looking out the window, and I heard a girl scream. And I mean, not, "Oh my goodness," oh, not having sex scream. This was a scream of somebody who was being murdered. And instantly I knew what it was, because it was blood-curdling scream and pain. And I mean, it was horrible. Got up, went out in the hallway, looking around, so went to each, checking everything. Nothing there. So the next morning I went down, they said, "No, we've never had anything like that." So there's a girl named Heather Besser, who is a psychic, who is beyond good. I mean, she's probably the best psychic there is. And I told her, I said, "Yeah, I wish I could, I had something happen in St. Andrews." Didn't tell her. She goes, "You were close to the stairway?" And I said, "Not that far away." She goes, "That's where they killed her." I didn't tell her about the sounds or anything else. She just says, "That's where they killed her." So, but I asked the people downstairs if they ever heard somebody scream. They said no. So I think this was meant just because I do a lot of ghost hunting, and I might be in a different vibration than most people, that the ghost was taking its one shot to get heard. But that bothered me for a long time. I mean, it was so,
Did you ever kind of look into it, try and research, find out if there was a woman killed on the stairs or whatever?
I asked that downstairs, and they said no. But I don't think because they have young girls that are like freshmen in the college, that are down at the things, and I don't think they really know very much about the history of the place. They're just trying to make a couple bucks so they can go out and have beer with their friends.
As you do when you're at college, isn't it? Well, St. Andrews is beautiful. We were there, I don't know, about 4 or 5 months ago. We took a wee day trip over. It was during that heat wave I mentioned earlier on, Rick, before we came on. It was during that heat wave that we took a wee drive up. It's a beauty, and so much history to it. But it'd be interesting to find out if there was an actual anybody, murdered there. But just you're talking about Edinburgh. I was saying reading Mike Covo on last night, and we were talking about Edinburgh, and he's from Hull. He does a lot of ghost tours and stuff in Hull. And he was saying just about, single streets that during the day they're beautiful, shops and all the rest of it. But there's so much history to it. And I know you're a big fan of Edinburgh. I'm a
big fan of all of Scotland, actually.
What about Glasgow?
No.
What's up with Glasgow?
I've been to Glasgow, but I'm not a big fan of it, no.
What was wrong with Glasgow?
Just it seemed too commercial. Didn't have that old time vibe like, you get in Edinburgh. and some of the other places. And this was mostly stores we were walking by and everything else. There wasn't a lot of that old time feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the hotel that we stayed in, the Motel One, a friend of mine's the manager there. He'd been the manager at the one in Edinburgh where I always stayed. And he got, the last day I was in the hotel was the last day he was going to be there. And we were going the next day to the hotel. He was going to be the general manager over there, which is cool. But when we got there, the hotel rooms were like half the size of the ones in Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, this is, I mean, I had friends that had a lot of equipment. They couldn't even get in, there was hardly get in. It was, so we weren't overly thrilled with the size of the rooms. Now they had upgrades. You could have got upgraded rooms, right? But we were trying to save a few bucks. So they do have the facilities to have, the bigger rooms. So, so I can't pick on them about that. We were just trying to save some money, but it didn't have the feeling. You know what I mean?
I know 100% what you mean. See, I'm Glaswegian, born and bred, and it's changed so much over the years. There's so many buildings being knocked down, and they put offices there, or shopping centres there, or whatever, and it has lost. You're 100% right. It has lost the old Glasgow feeling. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard it, but there was one time, it was at the Apollo Theatre, and all the big bands used to play there. Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Meatloaf, you name it. The list was, and it was one of the most popular music venues in Europe. And it'd been open for years. Everybody knew the Apollo. I'd been there many times. And they just knocked that down. And that's where Buchanan Galleries is now. And
that's what we do in America. We take all our landmarks and just smash them and make a condo out of it.
That's exactly what they did there. And I'm in a couple of groups. One is a Glasgow group, and a few people says, who remembers the Apollo Theatre? And say, well, I remember it. And it was... It's one of these places that it always stays with you, but it's hard to describe. You need to have actually went there, and all the big bands always said it was their favourite venue to play. But the city centre has become, I used to drive trucks from the city centre years ago, and it was easy, but see now, they've chopped and changed it that much that you dread getting into the city centre now. It's just no where it used to be. There's still some buildings out the West End and that are still historical, but in the city centre, I do agree with you. Edinburgh has got far more that old time feeling, especially the old town.
Absolutely, there's no comparison between the two of them. But yeah, I really love Edinburgh. But
keep right, you'll get it.
I told my friends Laurie and Kat and Mikey, I said, and Julie, I said, look, when we get to St. Andrews, you have to go down and sit by the harbor, right? So we go down. There's this little store. You can go and get an ice cream or a burger or whatever you want, and then you go out to the thing. And we went out. We were sitting there. And to be honest, there's not much to see at the harbor. It's a harbor, it's just water out. You're just sitting there. But there's something mystical about that place. I mean, you sit there and you feel it. You feel all of Scotland going through you. And it's just, it's an amazing thing. And I didn't say anything. We got in there, we sat down, and we were there probably for about 45 minutes to an hour. And we said, okay, time to go. We started walking around, and they said, oh, we have to come back here. And I said, I go there every day and sit there for like an hour when I'm there by myself. I'll get something to eat and I'll sit on the bench. And I said, there's magic in that harbor. So
I've been down there once, and it was a day trip. I went myself, and when I went down, there was some kind of service going on. I don't know if it was a religious thing or something, but it looked like these people were saying goodbye to somebody. Somebody passed recently. They were having a service for them down there, so I kind of lasted 2 minutes. I thought, right, I don't belong here, and I'm going to go rather than sit and kind of watch. But you get these places, especially, I find that the same in Greyfriars. Obviously, you've been to Greyfriars quite a few times.
I actually, yeah.
It's a kind of place you can sit for, hours and just, how do you put it, lose yourself.
Well, my very first time at Greyfriars, I was there with Brian Harley. I don't know if you know him. He has Premier Paranormal and a couple of other people. Caroline Hospora was there. She was walking with me, and it was nighttime. It was probably midnight. And we're walking around, and we're way in the back, and we're walking on one of the cement paths, and a lot of leaves down there. And we're walking along, and I look over at her, and she looks at me, and I said, "You hear it?" She goes, "Yeah." And I said, "The footsteps in the grass out there on the leaves." She goes, "Yeah." I said, "They're about 10 yards behind us, maybe not that far." She goes, "I can hear it." So we're walking along, and I said, "All right, stop." So she stops, then we hear, and then it stops, and I turn around, there's nothing there, and I was like, "Okay, I get it." Right. So it's a pretty cool place. Greyfriars. If you ever go to Scotland, you got to walk down there because you can get in for free. You can go in anytime you want.
They're thinking there is talk of they're wanting to close it now.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
At night time.
Yeah, they shouldn't close at nighttime.
No, they shouldn't.
Although I will tell you something, the graveyard right across from Calton Hill, which is a very old time graveyard, very, very, very interesting. When you go down, you're on Princess Street.
Mm-hmm.
Once you go in, you have to go upstairs to get up to the thing. And I'm walking up there, and as I'm getting closer and higher, I can see these two girls standing by a monument, probably 40 yards ahead of me. And as I start to come up, my head comes up over the thing, so now I can see the ground and everything. I see a guy in the corner get up and start stalking the two girls, right? And he hadn't seen me. So I'm walking, staying behind him so he can't see me. And he got about 10 yards away, and I went, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he froze, right? He turned around back, and he had a sleeping bag, went back and got in the sleeping bag. And I just looked at the ladies, and they had seen it. I said, right now might be a good time to leave. So they took off while I was still there to keep an eye on the guy. But the next time that I went back there, he was still there. So if you ever go to Calton Graveyard on Princess Street, watch out. Because last time I was there were 3 of them in the corner.
That is quite a shady place. Same as Greyfriars, they're cleaned it out now, but when you come round, I'll try to describe exactly where it is. When you get in the main gate, and then you go round to the right-hand side of the kirk, the actual building itself, you go along, and to your right, there's a small set of stairs. Right at the bottom of these stairs, there's a tomb. And there used to be sleeping bags and all sort of rucksacks and stuff in this tomb. How these guys get in there, I don't know, because it always appeared locked. But I spotted a few times, and but they've cleared it out now. But there's homeless people all over Edinburgh, so no doubt it's homeless people, and they found their way into one of the mausoleums, one of the tombs or something, and this is where they're swimming, because that is quite common practice, unfortunately. Not so much in Greyfriars now, because they've got the enforcement officers now who come round they just come round randomly day and night. They're mainly there to make sure nobody's filming or investigating without permission and the proper paperwork. So they do have them now. In fact, when we were through at Halloween, we were talking to Jamie Christopher, and there was 3 of them. He says there's 3 officers kicking about, so if you're going to do any filming, just watch what you're doing, because you'll get it's £1,000 fine if you're caught doing it without the proper paperwork, which is nuts, So Jamie said just keep a wee eye out, because they are floating about there. So he pointed one out. He says they get the woman standing in the gate, she's one, but the other 2 are somewhere. So keep it. So but we took some photographs, and that was it. But so what's your take between the Covenanters prison and the Kirkyard?
And the other one was what?
and you get Greyfriars Kirk, and then you've got the Covenanters prison, which is adjacent to it.
Yeah, I know about the Covenanters prison. I've been in there. Fortunately, I've been in there twice, actually. And I don't know the other place that you're talking about.
No, Greyfriars, the Kirkyard.
Oh, the courtyard. Well, the courtyard's it's haunted, and the Covenant, there's stuff going on in there too. So it's to me, it's all one big place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you gotta have somebody let you into the Covenanters, because it's all locked up. But yeah, I've been in there twice, and the first time I was in there was in the daytime, and there were so many people around. I mean, it was like a carnival. Next time I was in there, I got to go in there at night, and it's pretty cool. So
it's an experience, isn't it? We've been in at night time.
Yeah, it's funny. People will ask me on podcasts. I'll go, so why do you love Scotland? I said, to go ghost hunting. They said, well, what is haunted in Scotland? I go, Scotland. No freaking place is haunted. I said, you go anywhere in the whole place, it's haunted.
That's it. I mean, again, talk about Edinburgh. You think of the Royal Mile.
Well, Mile's got all kinds of stuff going on there too.
Exactly, for the castle down to the king. It's usually called the King's Palace now. But all the way down, it's steeped in history, and some of it's good, but there's a lot of dark history.
I tried explaining to somebody on one of these podcasts, I said, you have to understand the history of Scotland. I said, they fought the Vikings, they fought the English. I mean, they were fighting for their own country. I said, and back in the days, they stood face to face with swords, shovels, scythes, whatever, most of them, because a lot of them were farmers and ranchers and stuff like that just joined the battle. I said, and you can actually smell the food the guy ate for lunch. I mean, you're face to face trying to kill another human being. Mm-hmm. I said, and you think that doesn't, ramp up the ghost hunting possibilities? And I said, yeah, it's, there's so many huge bloody fights there. I mean, just unbelievable. There's one that nobody talks about. It's the Battle of Roslin, 1303. And you're pretty smart, but I bet you never heard of it.
Never. I've heard the Roslin, but have you never heard of the Battle of Roslin? But so do continue. A mile
farther down, it's actually right where. What is the name of that big company that's right down there? Can't remember the name of the company, but it's right down near where Dolly the sheep got cloned too, right in that area.
Oh, right. That's a long time ago now. I do remember it, Dolly the sheep.
But they had a battle there. The king had promised one guy this woman who was royalty of another country, and she decided she liked William Sinclair, who was the guy who founded a lot of the Knights Templar stuff. There's a Knights Templar temple. It's actually in the city called Temple. They named it Temple because of the Knights Templar temple, right? And it's 8 miles from Roslin. But they had a huge war. The king actually sent 30,000 soldiers to go in and get the girl back and to kill William Sinclair. Kind of overmatched, don't you think? One man against 30,000. Well, they came in and they set up in a triangle, like 1.5 miles away from each. So there's a lot of people in each corners. Sometimes they say there was 4 corners, right? So I'm not sure, but the next day, as they started to go in after Sinclair, the people had heard about what was going to happen, and the townspeople and everything else came out, and there was 8,000 of them. Or there's about 6,000 of them against 30,000. And this is the night before. And just as they were getting ready to go out in the morning, they'd all heard about what was going on. Up on the hill, there were monks. And the monks were pointing out where everybody was. They could see them up on the mountain. And they would say, they would tell them where to go. And just as they're getting ready to go, now this is could be all rumor, but they said just as they were getting ready to go, a whole bunch of guys on horseback pulled up. And they said, heard you're going to have a war. You need any help? The guy goes, yeah, do you have any, who are you? He goes, William Wallace. It was kind of well known.
Mhm.
And they said right after that, a whole bunch of other guys on horses with white tunics with red crosses on it showed up. So it ended up being the 30,000 people against roughly 8,000 Scots, who also had William Wallace and the Knights Templar with them. And being smart, they said, well, these guys aren't all in one spot. Let's take our entire people and go over and attack where they have this, just a quarter of their people. And they go over there and they just wiped everybody out. They turn around, they go get the next one. And the monks are still pointing where to go. And the other guys are coming. And finally, the only English that survived this battle were the really fast ones, the ones that ran. But they still say it is the bloodiest battle in England, in Scotland's history. And nobody knows about it. I mean, there's a big statue, a big marker for it, Battle of Roslin, 1303. But they say they didn't want the publicity that the king at the time, who's the famous king?
Edward I.
No, Robert the Bruce. Wouldn't let any stories about it come out because he wasn't there and he didn't want to build up Wallace.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
I'm writing this down because I'm going to find out about it. I don't know if you know, we're doing a thing called the Wallace Trail.
Oh yeah.
We're going on to episode 4. We're working with the Society of William Wallace and CRA Entertainment. We've done today. They're on YouTube, the first 3 episodes, but we're doing it. What we're doing is we're filming at a lot of locations that people don't know were associated with William Wallace.
Well, this place right there with the you said you've been to Roslin before.
Mm-hmm.
When you're driving into Roslin and you have to make that left turn,
mm-hmm.
There's a field off there on the left side, big field. That's where the battle was. And what actually happened when I went down there one day, I was going to go in at night, and there was a hill. It wasn't real big, like a slope, and there was mud underneath the top, and I slipped and blew my knee out. I mean, badly. I mean, I couldn't walk. And I ended up having to walk 2.5 miles with essentially a broken leg. And I finally got down. I climbed over 2 aluminum gates that they had because, like I said, there's a big farm. And I finally saw where there was houses, and I went around, and I'm walking down there, and I see a guy inside his kitchen washing his dishes. So I just hollered across over to him. I said, "Hey, excuse me." And the guy goes, "Yeah." And I'm all covered in mud, right? And I limping badly. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know how far it is to catch the bus into Roslin?" He goes, "Well, it's that way, but it's a ways." I said, "Okay, thanks." He goes, "How come you're covered in mud?" And I said, "Well, I blew my knee out." I said, "I fell down way in the back there." I said, "Where were you?" And I told him. He goes, "Dude, that's like 2.5 miles." And I said, "Yeah, it took a while," right? So I start walking, and after about 10 minutes, I've gone about 75 yards, right? This car pulls up, and this guy pulls up, and he goes, "Get in, I'll give you a ride." And I looked at him, I said, "Dude, I'm covered in mud." And he laughs at me. He goes, "I work on a farm. Get in." Right?
So
he actually drove me right to my hotel. I was staying at the Chapel Cross Inn, which is
mm-hmm.
one of the 2 hotels there. And he actually spun around so that I could get out. The lady that was one of the owners saw me. She come around. She goes, "Oh my God, do you want me to, call an ambulance for you?" Because I mean, my leg was destroyed. I still need a knee replacement because of it. But he was so cool, and we were talking about ghost hunting and stuff, that the next time I came, I went over and I knocked on his door. I said, "Well, you want to go ghost hunting?" This is like a year later. And he goes, "Yeah." And he says, "When?" I said, "How about now?" He says, "Where do you want to ghost hunt?" I said, "Isn't that where they had the Battle of 1303 right out there?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Let's go there." So we went there, we ghost hunted the entire place and got nothing. 0, right? which was 700 years ago, this battle, right? And mostly you'd think you'd be disappointed, but I wasn't. I was actually thinking, all right, all those brave guys are where they're supposed to be, right? So as I walked away, I just said, rest in peace, gentlemen, right? So, but that was cool. I got to actually get out there in the fields in the middle of the night with my friend Jamie, the guy that rescued me and drove me to the house, drove me to the back to Roslyn.
I mean, I've been in Roslyn, but I had no idea the Battle of Roslyn. I'm going to need to look into that, right? Because see, our next episode of the Wallace Tour is going to feature.
If you ever go there, and you know where you start to walk in or drive in to go into the chapel, and you know where the Roslyn Inn and stuff like that is, right there. Well, if you go up to that street before you go into the chapel and stuff, take a left, and you go down roughly a mile and a half, and there'll be a big, I don't know what you call it, a cistern maybe, the big round rocks, with a thing on there that says the Battle of 1303.
A cairn.
Yeah, it could be. But it's a big rock, circular rock thing with the thing in there. So I looked up several times about the Battle of 1303, and you get some conflicting reports. But you get enough of the meat of the things that the monks had quite a bit to do with them winning that by saying, no, that way, they're over there now, right? So the monks up on the hill.
Well, that's it. I mean, back then, also religion was a big thing, massive thing. And I think, the monks did help quite a wee bit. It's the same as the Wallace's Arm at Cambus Kenneth Abbey in Stirling. But after Wallace was executed, his arm was brought to Scotland by the English and put on Stirling Bridge as a warning, basically. But the legend goes that during the night, the monks of the Cambus Kenneth Abbey sneaked on the bridge and took the arm, and is now buried in the Abbey churchyard. And there's a stone that marks where the arm's reported to be. So the monks did play quite a big part of it. And I think it might sound stupid, it might sound daft, but I think monks played a big part in it. The other reason is that they wouldn't have been suspected by the English, by the soldiers or the king, whoever. They wouldn't have suspected monks to be kind of in there helping.
Well, besides that, and you know this as well as I do for sure, there was so much battling between the different religions in Scotland, Ireland, and all that none of the kings really wanted to be involved in any of that. So a lot of things, got left behind that might have gotten fixed, should we say. And the one big question that I have, anywhere you go, they will tell you nobody knows what William Wallace really looks like.
There's many, I do agree, there's many drawings, paintings, images of him. Yeah. And it's actually amazing the amount of people who believe that, the film Braveheart, obviously.
Oh, yeah, that was a documentary, that was so real.
I think it was amazing. I love the film. I've seen it numerous times, and I really did love the film, But see, we're lucky enough to be partnership with the Society of William Wallace, and as they said, some of it was true, some parts of the film.
The Bannockburn part was true.
The Bannockburn part was true, but it's an amazing amount of people who think William Wallace fought at Bannockburn, but he never. Wallace had been dead for, my maths is crap, 9 years. Wallace was executed in 1305. The Battle of Bannockburn was in 1314. But a lot of people to this day still say, oh, William Wallace, he won at Bannockburn. And say, William Wallace never fought at Bannockburn. He was dead by this time. It was Robert the Bruce.
I always thought that Wallace was there. That's interesting.
No, Wallace had been dead for 1305, 9 years.
What got me was Culloden.
Culloden is an amazing place. The atmosphere. I've never been on the actual battlefield. Been up to it, the visitor centre and what have you, but never actually been onto the battlefield. I tell you, you've been on the battlefield.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I was so pissed off looking at it, because when you know that up here were the English who had rifles and, you know, all the other armaments and things, and down here were the Scots. See, now I have to always say I'm always in favor of the Scots, because McCallum, actually, the other part of our family is the Malcolms, and there's 3 kings Malcolm. So I'm kind of on the Scottish side here, right? But they said that there was a drunken Irish guy who was in charge of the Scots, and they're like hundreds of yards across a bog, right? Have you been to Culloden?
I've been up to the visitor centre. Obviously, it was a lot different back then, but been to, pardon me, the visitor centre, but not on the actual battlefield.
Yeah, you go out to the battlefield and it's a bog, right? All this stuff, like you're not going to be able to run. You're just going to, you know, you're probably going to die in there without anybody shooting you. That's how bad this is. And they've got to be at least 500 yards away. And this guy says, attack. And these guys are just trying to get to them. It was the stupidest. I was so mad just looking at it. I said, who the hell would go charge them from this far away, right? They've got all the better weapons. You can't do anything where you're trying. You should have just said, you know what? Hey, follow us and go to somewhere else and fight with them. It was the worst setup. I mean, other than Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, the worst setup I've ever seen.
I never watched the fight. I heard all about it. You know, it was all over TikTok and whatever, but I'm a Formula One man. I'm not a boxing man.
Well, it's a good thing you weren't, because if you would have watched that fight, you would have been very upset watching it.
I think it shows you much animosity that he's here. I thought Tyson had retired. I thought he was done with the boxing whole thing and stuff like that. I thought he was gone.
Well, they offered him $20 million to fight.
Well, I think I'd come out of retirement for $20 million. So
you know what else too? They found the contract, and in the contract, he gets a bonus for every round that he goes farther. Now, you would think that benefits Tyson. It does, but the person that really benefits is Jake Paul, because he's not going to get knocked out, because Tyson wants more money.
True enough, Tyson's no. So I mean, I'm going to be embarrassed asking this, but who won? So
nobody.
Nobody. Shows you how much attention I paid to it.
That bad. I mean, Tyson was just barely stumbling after him, and and Jake Paul was just kind of tapping him, and if you look at from like a week before the workouts that Mike Tyson had, wow, he was fast and strong, and that guy didn't show up. So you could tell it was rigged. I mean,
always rigged. As you say, for every round they go X amount of dollars more, so he would want it to last, as much as possible. So I'm conscious of the time. I know you're a busy man, young sir. So between, obviously, you've been ghost hunting for many, I'm not going to say how many years, I'm not giving away your age, but you've been doing it quite some time.
How about if I tell you how many years? 57.
57 years. So you started when you were, 2 years old?
I was 13 when I started.
I wasn't giving away your age there. I was trying to skip round, So you've been doing it all these years, many, many years. And you've obviously investigated many places in, America, Hollywood, what have you. What's your favourite? You've probably been asked this hundreds of times, but between America and Scotland, what do you prefer?
You mean my favorite place in America?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. Maybe Waverly Hills, the insane asylum, not insane asylum, Waverly Hills. That's where they have the tuberculosis place. Mm-hmm. Really huge place, and it's very haunted. Very, very.
I've read that. I've read the Waverly Hills, and I've watched documentaries on it, and I know, but they're not trying to shut it down at one point.
Well, what was happening was there was two groups. There was Tina Mattingly and her husband, who had always had it, and another group was trying to take it over. So they're having a battle between the two of them to see who was going to keep it. And it looks like Tina's still there. So, and Tina's a wonderful person. When I went there, she personally took me around to show me everywhere in the place. And Kane was there. R.A., the guy who plays Leatherface, he was there. So we had a pretty good group walking around in there. You know, we had a bunch of people following us around. So yeah, it was a very interesting place. Very, very haunted.
What's the atmosphere? Because I've spoke to a few people over the years, and some say, "Oh, it's very negative." You know, don't get near it. And other people say, "No, it's a nice atmosphere because the patients were treated really well."
Well, the stuff that I've come across wasn't negative. It was just intense. And we came out of room 502, I think it is. And as we were walking out, the girl that was walking with me, and I had another guy with me who was up front who was filming. And she goes, "Oh," right? First off, no, I said, "Wow." I was looking at her hair to see if her hair could be rubbing on my arm because I could feel something go across my arm. And I looked, and her hair wasn't long enough to have done that, right? So I said, "Man, I just felt somebody, their hand run across my arm." And she goes, "I have a feeling." Oh, she goes, "Somebody just touched my face." And this is the room that they say the nurses touch people in there. We go out, and just as we go out and we're starting to walk down the hall, my one friend Barry goes, "Rick, somebody just ran into that room." So I go taking off, and I go running into the room. And one side of the room is knocked down so you can look into the other room, right? And I go in there, and there's only just a couple chairs. There's nothing in there. And I'm looking at the other place, and you can see the whole room. There's nothing there. And I start to turn my back, and Barry and the girl are standing in the doorway. And I hear real deep, like a guard dog. And I freeze. There's a guard dog in there, and he's going to eat my leg or something. And I look all around. There's nothing there. So, I mean, that was scarier than shit. But I mean, we were standing right there. They couldn't have gone past us. I could see the one room, and I could see there's nothing in the room. So they did have a story there of a night watchman who he and his dog both died on the premises. So the fact that I went running in after him might have triggered the dog. I don't know.
It seems like. See, I've spoken to a few people about Waverley, Hills, and some people would say, it was a nice place and patients felt safe there. And there was, the other type of, people who had severe issues kind of thing. So I dare say there was some dark stuff that happened in the place. But do you think maybe it's so haunted or so active because the people who were treated well are still there, maybe because they felt this was their safe place?
Well, yeah, it could be. Well, it was actually a tuberculosis hospital, and just thousands of people died of the TB. And they got to a point, now I don't know if this is true because somebody had told me that the one place that they had to go down, there was a train track. And that's how they delivered all the food and everything else to this huge, Waverly is gigantic. Right? You have no idea till you get there. It's like, holy crap, this thing's huge, right? So anyway, it's like the size of an airport. I mean, it's huge, right? So they said that there were so many bodies being taken out and put into hearses, and what they did is almost all of the tuberculosis patients were up on the roof taking sun. They thought that helped them. And they could see all the ambulance, all the hearses driving away. And they said, well, this can't be very good for the morale. So what they decided was they would put the bodies on the trains that came by. And they would go down this one tunnel, right? And it's like, it's fairly steep. It's got stairs too. So like you can roll the bodies down on the gurneys, and then there's stairs up next to it. So all these bodies went through this tunnel. And when I was in there with the same two people. And I'm looking around, and I see the girl, she's looking around too. And the other guy, he's kind of, what? And this place is 100 yards long, I would say. It's pretty big. And I looked at the girl. I said, "Are you hearing something?" Now, you know, you've been around long enough. You don't say, "I hear this. Do you hear it too?" No, you ask them, what do they hear? Right?
Aye.
So I say, "You hear something?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "What do you hear?" And she goes, "Music and chanting." I said, "Really?" I said, "So am I." I said, what do you think it sounds like?" She goes, "I don't know." She says, "It's strange." I said, "Have you ever seen one of the New Orleans um, things where they take the hearse to the grave and all the people are behind it and they're all chanting? You know, have you ever seen that? That's exactly what it sounded like. So I went up the stairs, and as I got up there, nobody's supposed to be in the building but us, right? Well, there was like 8 of us all together. And we get out there, and the other people in the other sections, right, of the whole place. And I get up there, and I see a car coming from about 200 yards away, and I wait. And I said, "Dude, did you have your music on?" And he goes, "No." And he gets out. I said, did you see anybody coming? He goes, "No, there's nobody out there." So we started wondering what all that was all about, right? So fact that we heard what sounded like, you know, Death March, you know, which was really something. So I mean, Waverly was very haunted. But you know what? Nobody knows this, but somebody that worked there told us. They said everybody goes to the death tunnel. They all go up to room 502. The most haunted area in this building is the entryway when you come walking in, the foyer or foyer, if you want to say it. So we actually had each of us sit down in the thing in the dark by ourselves for 15 minutes, right? Everybody else was down the way. Every single person had something happen to them in there. Matter of fact, we had one guy, Chris Carnell, the guy who played the miner in My Bloody Valentine. Real well-known stuntman too. I mean, the guy was fearless. And we got down there, and he was still sitting in the chair. And he goes, I said, "Well, how was it?" He goes, "By the way, he got killed in a motorcycle accident a couple of years ago." But I asked him, I said, "What happened?" He goes, "I've never been more afraid in my life." Now, this guy's not afraid of anything. And this, you know, I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I heard the door rattle," because everybody heard this door rattle. It was probably 20 yards behind. You'd hear this door rattle. And then we have it on when Kane was doing it, you could hear the footsteps. You know, Linoleum towards him. But he goes, "Yeah, I heard the door rattle." He says, "Then I heard the footsteps." He says, "And then I heard what sounded like a sword being pulled out of a sheath right behind me." He says, "I wanted to run so bad." But yeah, there's a lot of strange things you come across.
It's, I know, as you say, you love Scotland and you know, you love investigating Scotland, but so do I, obviously, so do we. But you guys, I mean, you've got Alcatraz, you've got Waverly Hills, you've got Gettysburg, you've got a load of places. I was saying this to Sarah the other day. I can't remember what we were watching, but it was a paranormal thing, and they were done in, I think it was an old hospital they were in, and it was the big long, you know, big long basements you get, big long corridors. You guys we don't have anything like that here.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that we go to that have those really long corridors.
I mean, we've got we've got Caldwell and Alcohol, and they've got basements with corridors. They're no massively long corridors, you know. But I would love to. You guys have got just go down myself with a torch and just start wandering along it's something I wanted to do for years, but the old hospitals here are either getting renovated into flats or they've got a lot of security fencing up and CCTV cameras, and there are groups that will break into them, you know, climb the fence, whatever, but we don't do that because you need to respect the rules, basically, and it is breaking an entry at the end of the day. But I would love to do stuff like that, right? Just come over and just wander about the basements. I think it'd be fascinating.
Yeah, it's one of the things that people don't realize. A lot of the places we went to were old hospitals, and they have those real long hallways. And if you get in there and you go long enough, you'll start to get the feelings when something's around. And the weird thing is, when you're walking down this way, there's a hallway, there's doors on each side for 100 yards. You know, you're like, right, I know you're here. Which one of these things are you going to pop out of? You know, so.
Do you think that, so I'm just going to wind up with one last question. Do you think that, just we were saying earlier on about the laird and what have you, you'd picked up on them, etc., and just what you says there, where you're ghost hunting, you tend to pick up on things. Do you think that's maybe because you've been doing it a long time, so you know what to look for, or because the more you do it, the more the barrier comes down? I've always said that everybody's, you know, when you get into adulthood, this barrier kind of comes up, the psychic side, you know, and when you start getting into the paranormal, you start investigating, you're unconsciously letting that barrier drop, if that makes sense. Do you think you pick up more because that barrier's now dropped, or because you know to look? Does that make
I
sense?
think the barrier has never really been there. I think it's just the fact that people didn't really realize what was going on most of the time until the last maybe 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
What I really think is, now, without trying to sound egotistical, and it's going to sound that way anyway, but I'm going to tell you, if you've been doing this for as long as I have, I mean, I've been doing it probably longer than anybody in the world, right? 57 years. I can't think of anybody else. Maybe John Zaffis has been around that long, but I think that spirits can read your energy. And once you've become used to the energy of the spirits,
Mm-hmm.
I think that they can pick out of a room, that's the one to go to. So, I mean, I'll be in a room where it's absolutely packed, right? And I'll put my K2 in front of me, and I'll say, yeah, if there's anybody who wants to talk to me, come on over. Boom. And it starts. And they're like, what the hell? You know, even the Scottish paranormal guys. Now, these guys are not rookies. They're as good a group as there is. Matter of fact, I'm a member of the group. They'll even say, man, wherever you go, you know, you get something. Most of the time, yeah. But I do think, and I tell everybody, they ask me all the time, how should I ghost hunt if I really want to get ghost hunting? You know, and I said, well, imagine you go out in your backyard and there's a puppy. How would you try to get the puppy? And they all say the same thing. They'd say, well, I'd kneel down and I'd stick my hand out and I'd say real quietly, here, buddy, right? I said, you would approach it nicely, right? And he said, yeah. I said, that's what you do with ghosts. Same thing. I said, all these people provoking ain't ever going to get anything. They're stupid. They're just trying to build up their ego. And if I'm around and they start doing that, I said, I'll just tell them straight off, knock it off or leave.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they go, well, why? I said, how would you like it if I came over to your house and called you a stupid son of a bitch? Well, I wouldn't like that. I said, they don't like it either.
that's exactly it. They're still people. Even if they're in spirit, they're still people with still feelings and etc. I totally agree with you. I've been in a few groups and people say, you know, I want to start in the paranormal, I want to start investigating how, you know, what's the best way to go about it. And I've said to them, look, you know, if you've got a local castle, graveyard, whatever, just take a torch, go along with yourself and just sit there and see what happens.
Try talking to them.
Talk to them if they're sitting right next to you. Say hello, tell them your name, you know, just talk in a general sort of everyday manner as you would talk to somebody you met in a supermarket.
Well, I will tell you something funny. Whenever I go someplace, the very first thing I do is when I walk in, I go, hi, my name is Rick, right? And somebody asked me one time, they said, and my name gets called out on the recorder endlessly, right? I mean, people just are laughing like crazy, you know, just saying, wow, this thing keeps saying your name. And somebody finally went, well, why isn't saying our name? I said, did you introduce yourself?
Because they don't know you.
I said, the only name they know here is me because I introduced myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's 100% correct. You know, that's basically it. You know, they don't see other people because they don't know them. They don't know who they are. And the other thing is, these people haven't maybe, I don't know, get the manners or respect to turn around and introduce herself first, you know, and Spirit will pick up on that as well. It's there's so much to the paranormal, it just kind of, you know.
Well, if you go in and you be nice and you're kind and you talk to them like you're trying to talk to a friend, you have a much better chance of getting something.
That's it, because that's all they're wanting. They're just wanting to be acknowledged, they're wanting somebody to talk to them and, you know, just be a friend, basically.
Well, I will tell you something strange. I was at Bannockburn House, and I was there, and there were 3 of us standing there, and we all had K2 meters, and they're right next to me, and I'm talking, and mine's going off, replying, you know, answering to what I was asking, and theirs aren't. They're right here. They're right next to me. I said, let's try something. Put your K2 under mine about this far, and then you put yours underneath hers, right? And I don't know why I did this. It just came across to me, and I started going like this with my hand. And I said, all right, can you light up the other K2s that are underneath me? Can you do that? Boom, boom. They both went off just like that. And they're like, holy cow. And I was like, you got to ask.
Yeah, you do. You got to ask, you know, you got to let them know. And even if you do ask and you get no response, I mean, another thing you can say is, well, you know, I'm going to be here for a short time, so feel free to come and speak to me or touch one of the boxes or just give them a chance. Just tell me I'm going to be here. If you want to come forward, you're welcome to come forward. And that's it. Just treat them like human beings, because they're human beings, basically. Except they don't have a physical.
At one time, and you know, if they are actually intelligent, which they seem to be, would mean they may still have feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So be nice.
I've always said that the only thing we don't take is our body.
Yeah.
We take everything else.
Mine because mine is beautiful.
Well, that's a whole different show, isn't it?
Actually, I got out of the shower this morning and saw myself with the mirror. I took the lights out in my bathroom now. No, I don't want to see that.
You're going to see you removed the mirror.
Yeah, no, I just turned the lights off.
Was that a lot easier than removing the mirror?
I never did any mirror stuff in there, but I've been in 30 different horror movies.
I was wanting to just briefly talk about your movie career and what have you. I know I say we're only going for an hour, we're over that now, but what about you? All right for another 5-10 minutes just so we chat about the Hollywood side to you?
Well, yeah, I've done about 75 different projects, right? But about 30 movies. Matter of fact, I think I've done 29 horror movies with Kane, where we were in the same movie. Yeah, I mean, all of them are different, you know, because you're dealing with different people. The directors are different, you know, the first ADs are different, the stunt people are different, the actors and actresses are different. So, you know, it's everything you go to is a brand new experience. So it's kind of cool. Sometimes you get people that are too full of themselves, you know, and other times people are just amazingly nice. So it's a business, you know, there's people that are cool, there's people that aren't. You know, the two nicest people that I've met on the sets was Clint Eastwood and Chuck Norris. We're both really, really nice men.
See, that's it. We'd Costas Mandalore on a couple of months ago from the Saw films. I don't know if you've seen the Saw films. Have you seen the Saw films?
The Saw films? No. Yeah. I wouldn't watch those. I don't react real well to seeing people being tortured and stuff. So I don't.
Oh, I love it. The more blood and gut shit, the better. That's how I love Big Jason. He just didn't care. You know.
It's funny. I've only seen one Jason movie.
I think I've seen them all.
Number 7, the first one that Kane was in. I watched it because it was my buddy who was in it. Right. But I watched any others. I don't like horror movies, believe it or not.
See that's the thing. See, we Costas on, and he played Detective Hoffman in the Saw films, and we're talking about the various actors that he's worked with and what have you, and talk about Hollywood people, and he was saying, just what you were saying, you know, about some of the actors, their egos are way up there, you know, it's through the roof, but the majority of them are very, very down to earth people.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, there's some, and the ones that are up here think they're up here are really probably about here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's just, yeah, there's some that are just egotistical jerks. I mean, that's the only way to say it. And then there's other, big stars like Clint Eastwood, who's just nice as can be,
Exactly, you see, and I mean, I know Keanu Reeves. I don't know if you've ever worked or met him, Keanu Reeves.
Oh, Keanu Reeves has the best reputation in all of Hollywood. I mean, if you know any of the stuff about him, he has donated probably close to $100 million to different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of fact, they said there was one story that he was sitting there in the makeup room, and a girl down the other way, one of the makeup artists, was crying to her friend and saying, "What's the matter?" And she goes, "Well, I have till the end of the day to come up with 20,000, or they're taking my house." So he went in the other room, called the bank, transferred the money over there, and didn't even tell her until the next day when she said, "Did you transfer money to my account?" "Oh, yeah." She goes, "I don't know when I can pay it back." He goes, "Didn't ask you to."
So it's things like that, and they don't do it for there's so many, and there's so. I mean, I recently learned, the late Robin Williams, God rest him. Every movie he done, he insisted that there was, I think it was like 10 homeless people were hired.
Yeah, he used to do that all the time. He'd always make sure that the homeless people were extras in his movie.
And it wasn't something that was well publicized,
Well, a lot of those people do stuff they don't want you to know they're doing it.
I said they don't do it for the fame or or look at me, I've gave like 20,000 to that lady for her house, and I've hired 10 homeless people and stuff like that. And it's a lot of that goes unnoticed. But as you see, the other end of the stick is you've got these people who think they're way, way up there. I couldn't actually name any of them, but I mean, I like Tom Hanks. To be honest with you, I'm a big fan of Tom Hanks. I think he's brilliant. I've heard bad reports about him.
Yeah, he's a brilliant actor, and I wouldn't want to hang around with him. Let's put it that way.
You see, I've heard good and bad. You know what I mean? So, I mean, also you've been in the movie business for I'm not going to say how many years, but a while.
43.
All right, 43.
43 years.
What would you say was your greatest experience? One that really sticks in your mind.
I mean, I've played the lead character. I would play the werewolf in Dark Wolf, so I played the lead character in that. I was the monster in Deep Star 6. I've been in so many different movies. I mean, the thing that people kind of recognize me from was Hatchet 2. I played a character called Silent John. I never said a word. But when Kane comes out of the swamp with this 8-foot chainsaw, me and Colton are sitting there, and I'm blasting him with the shotgun. He just keeps walking. I'm blasting him, and Colton's hiding behind me, and he's shooting in the air. He's like the comic relief. And Kane comes up. My gun jams. I'm trying to fix it real quick. And he takes that chainsaw and goes between our legs, lifts both of us up in the air on the chainsaw, and chainsaws us in half. Well, lo and behold, Adam Green, the director, had put in something that I didn't know was going to be in the movie, and I didn't see it until the premiere downtown in Hollywood. When the thing hits me in the crotch, I'm in the front. Colton's hiding behind me, but there's two of us on the chainsaw. Hits me in the crotch, he starts lifting us up, and you see my balls start to drop down, and they drop on the ground. And they put that in special effects later on. I had no idea that was coming. I'm sitting up in the matinee area, right? And people are looking over at me because I look just like me, right? It was just, and they're looking over at me and they see this, and when it hits that, they're all the place went crazy. And when the balls hit the ground, they all, and I turn around, everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, oh boy. Everybody's gonna think that's the balls guy. Right?
So did anybody come up and ask you about, anybody for the audience?
Everybody in the movie would come up to it and pick on me. Matter of fact, Adam put my balls in the next movie. They were up in a tree.
That was
So
nice. You know,
I was always in more shows than I was.
at least you got them returned. Do you know what I mean? I do love my horror film. I like many films, but I'm a big fan of the horror genre. I've always liked to see people losing limbs. I've watched the Hatchet movies as well, and he is quite, takes no prisoners basically.
You know what's funny? I was in all four of them, and nobody knows that. You know, the very first, you said, have you seen all four of them?
I've seen, I didn't know there was four of them, actually. I've seen three of them.
There's one called Victor Crowley. It's the fourth one.
I have seen that, aye.
Okay. The very first one, first time you see Victor, he's inside the cabin and the kids are throwing firecrackers at him and he's running back and forth and the place catches on fire. And his father runs up and is kicking the door open, trying to save Victor. Well, that's when he takes the hatchet and goes through the door and hits, Victor in the face. Right down it goes. Well, Kane plays Victor, right? His father was on the other side chopping the door down. Who do you think was in that costume getting hit in the face with this thing? That was me. Then later on, because he was playing two characters. Now, Kane's a great stunt guy. He can do everything I can do easily. I mean, so it's not that I was doubling him because he couldn't do it, right? But when he's playing a character and he's off and they need the other guy, you got to put the guy that's in the suit and can do it because you can't double Kane and do the acting, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the coolest things that happened on the first one, there's a scene where I reach up, grab Tamara Feldman, who was the lead lady, out of the boat and drag her under the water. I don't know if you remember that. But I came up to her and I said, Tamara, do you mind if I stick my hand in the back of your jeans so that I can get that, the thing up on top? Yeah, so I can get a good yank and pull you up. I said, if I'm reaching into or trying just to grab you, I'm never going to get a good grip on you. And she goes, yeah, that's fine. And I told her, I said, no, look, the director really wants, Adam really wants, when I pull you over to really, we both go under the water and he doesn't see us. She goes, okay. They call action. I grab her, yank her out of the boat. You probably remember that when she comes flying out of the boat. And I start pushing her down. And the suit's made of stuff that doesn't sink. It floats, right? So I got hold of her and I'm pushing her down. And then, bless her heart, I feel her hands come up, grab my forearms like this and go, and yank me underwater.
Because you're just floating.
Yeah. As soon as I hit the water, she could tell that because I was going like this trying to come down, right? And then she just goes.
Come here, Al. You try to do it. Come on, Al.
Well, she came up with the best line. There was one where the guys were in the boat, and I had to go over there and help them get out of the boat. I had to pick them up and carry them out of the water and everything else. So I'm back there, and I said, Tamara, can you move forward for a minute? I don't want to touch anything that I'm not supposed to. And she goes, like what? You just had your hand down my pants.
There's no much answer to that one, is there? There's no much you can say.
Well, Danielle Harris took over, and 2, 3, and 4. So, and she's awesome. Matter of fact, she's a member of Hollywood Ghosthunters too. But she's awesome. I mean, that girl's fearless.
It's good that you've got that bond as well.
Oh yeah.
Obviously you and Kane have known each other for many years, and it's good that you've got that tight bond that continues, not just in the films.
Well, we've known each other for 43 years because I met him on my first movie. So
it's a long time, and that bond's still solid to this day. Which is it's rare. It's precious, but it's rare. You'll get people that have that bond for that length of time, But I think we'll wind it up there. I'll keep a hold of you for a wee couple of seconds after we come off, if that's all right. So where can people find you?
Usually the best place is on Facebook. You can go to Ghosts Believe in Me. That's the book I won the Paranormal Book of the Year award. go buy it on Amazon. Do it now. Don't wait. Yeah, you can go to Ghost Believe in Me. You can go to Rick McCallum, spelled just like that, or you can go to Hollywood Ghosthunters, all of them on Facebook, and I'll get your messages. So
excellent. So we will be having Rick back, and not so big a gap. This.
I do want to tell him something else too.
Carry on, young man.
In coming up soon, I've got not soon, in September, I've got this. Let me see if I can get this up there where you can see it.
QR code.
Yeah, QR code, and it's for a tour that I'm leading. It's in Ireland in September, and we're going to go to Lep Castle. We're going to ghost hunt, all these different Hellfire Club. I mean, all these great places. So if you look up Secret Ireland Tours, and you can pay per monthly. You don't have to pay all of it at once, so it's not a big punch in the mug. It's actually a pretty good deal. And some great places we're going. So Secret Ireland Tours, Ireland, September 1st to September 9th.
I'm writing that down.
Join us.
I'm writing that down.
And you come along too. You get in there, you dirty rat.
Nice meeting you, you dirty rat. No, you dirty, what is it, Home Alone? You filthy animal. Dirty rat. That was James Cagney, wasn't it? Was it James Cagney?
Yes. By the way, I did ask a friend of mine who was a very well-known director. I said, "Who's the worst actor you ever worked with?" And he goes, "Easily Burt Reynolds." I said, "Well, who was the best?" And he goes, "Easily Liam Neeson."
I like Liam Neeson. There's a thing, I saw it recently. I know we're going to wind up, but he's in have you seen the film Ted? The teddy bear.
Yeah, he's done a lot of stuff. My favorite one is Taken, when he does that famous thing, the famous line.
I'll find you and I will kill you. But the film Ted, I don't know if you've seen it. It was Max Wahlberg that was in it, and he does toy teddy bear. But Liam Neeson done a kind of comedy sketch for Ted. This teddy bear serving at the till, a supermarket, and Liam Neeson comes up with a box of kiddies' breakfast cereal. And if I can find the link, I'll send it to you. But he's asking this toy teddy bear, what am I going to get arrested if I buy this kiddie cereal? You do realise that I'm not a child.
I've seen that. That is pretty funny.
Have you seen that? I just seen it recently. I thought it was hilarious. But I like Liam Neeson. One of my favourite films of his is Ice Road.
Don't know that one.
It's about miners up in Alaska. There's a cave-in, and Liam Neeson plays a truck driver. Him and his brother and another two truckers are contracted to take a wellhead up through the ice roads to the mining bit in order to get these miners out. If you've not seen it, I recommend you watch it. It's called Ice Road. It's a really, really good.
What is it called now? Say this in English. What is it called?
Ice Road.
Ice Road. Okay, I got you.
Lawrence Fishburne. He's in it as well.
Interesting.
And there's one of the girls in it, I reckon. I think she was in Fast and Furious, the girl who's in it. I recognise her face. I cannot remember. But definitely, you get time, Rick, give a watch. I've seen it about 3 or 4 times. It's a brilliant, brilliant film. But as I say, I'll keep a hold of you after we come off. So a big thanks to this gentleman here for coming in to see us. You will be seeing him again. And we're going to wind it up there, folks. We're back on Sunday night with wee Rosie McCarty. McCarty. It's not McCarty. I'm looking at your name. It's Cardy. Rosie Cardy. No Rosie McCarty. Sorry, Rosie, if you're watching. And so we'll see you then. So be safe. If you're getting heavy snow or whatever, like what's going to happen up here. I know England's getting hit quite bad with it as well.
Oh, come on. Half an inch of snow. Jeez.
No, it's England has been hit quite bad. The London area and what's around about London. There's been videos up and stuff like that, and the temperatures meant to drop to -7, I think. But you're used to it.
When I lived in Chicago, I mean, you could not get out your doors. That's how much snow came in. When I lived in Denver, they would have 24, 27-inch snowfalls over the weekend. I mean, it's higher than your head. It doesn't come out 27 inches high. That's how much fell. When it all, piles on top of each other, it's as tall as you. And there's a half an inch.
But I think it's the temperature more than anything. The temperature is just, I don't know, over here, around about October, end of October time, the temperature starts to drop, slowly through November. But the last 3-4 days, it's just went through the floor.
Well, Chicago is right on Lake Michigan.
It's cold.
And during the winter, it gets well under zero. And I remember being on the swim team, and we swam in the winter. And back then, nobody had hair dryers, right? So we would get done, and we would be walking to go get on our bus, to go home. And the water, from swimming in your nose would freeze, so you'd have to go. And then your hair would freeze, so you're walking down the way going, trying to get the crack. So don't tell me your stories of your half inch of water and it's 17 degrees out.
I do remember, I know I said we're wider, just last very quickly, I do remember a time many, many years ago when I drove the trucks and it hit minus 21.
That's pretty cold.
And I think it's one of the lowest temperatures I've ever recorded in Scotland. But the diesel froze in my truck. I left I went and picked the truck up, left the yard round the corner, and he just cut it. Phoned the breakdown, the guy says, your diesel's frozen. I was like, okay. He says, no, the diesel's froze. So we had to put the truck in a shed for 2 or 3 days with heaters on to thaw it out, basically. But it hit minus 21. And I think that's the coldest I've ever experienced. I guess it's been colder before, but I've ever experienced. That was brutal. I'd still to go to work, but your hands were in agony with the cold, if they were exposed.
Well, 21 below, that's dying. That's dying weather if you get stuck in it.
That was pretty brutal. I was lucky that the truck broke down just round the corner for the yard. Because I was going up onto the motorway. I was heading for the motorway, so if I'd been on the motorway, then, who knows, but I was like 5 minutes for the yard, so I was lucky that in that extent. But we'll wind it up there, so I'll keep a hold of you just for a wee second. So that's it, folks. A big thanks again to this gentleman here. Give him a look up and look up his films as well. And we're back on Sunday night, so take care, be safe, and thanks for coming in, and we'll see you later on. Bye. Bye.